I think we can all agree that the lead up to the launch of Battlefield 2042 has been a bit nerve-wracking, right? I mean, it was only a month ago that we jumped headfirst into one of the jankiest betas to have ever existed. So I think it's safe to say that we were all a touch worried about the release of this game. But I've got to give credit where credit is due, guys. And the difference between what we have here today and what we had about a month ago is black and white. It is so polarizing, and in a good way. But it's not all perfect. G'day there once again, viewers. This is your mate Kamikaze78 here, and today we're going to be talking about Battlefield 2042 as it currently stands. And just right out of the gate here, guys, I really do want to emphasize just the sheer difference in polish that we have here between the full release and the beta that we went through with this game. I know there was a lot of skepticism around the claims that the beta was a few months old at the time of the beta's release, but nah, there is absolutely no question in my mind that the beta build was a very old build of the game, because there is no way this much could have changed for the better in such a short amount of time if it weren't otherwise. The gameplay is much tighter, it feels more responsive, and above all else has been a ton of fun, which to me is the most important thing in a game, more so with the Battlefield franchise, because the Battlefield franchise to me has always been about dumb, large-scale, chaotic teamwork, first-person shooter fun. And the fun factor is here, like it was in the beta. It just now has all the maps, modes, vehicles, weapons, specialists, and on top of that, a bunch of quality of life fixes, which just allow that fun to occur a lot more naturally now. Is this a perfect release? No, and there are some things that I want to hit on the head in this video that we can't ignore. But I want to start out with some of the positives and give you guys an idea of what's good here, because in my opinion, there's a lot to like. Firstly, and most importantly, and I've already harped on this a bit, but stability and bugs. I don't know what to say, guys. Of all the Battlefield launches that we've had recently, this has to be the cleanest launch from a bug perspective yet. I went hours before coming across anything suspicious, and while there were a couple of bugs that did get in the way of my experience, for example, being stuck in a down state indefinitely, or players seeming to be invincible at times, they were few and far between. I also experienced no crashes to desktop, which is impressive for an older rig like mine, which was also streaming at the same time. So GG's to DICE where it is due for pushing out a relatively bug-free experience. It was a huge sigh of relief for me on that front after the beta. But gameplay-wise, let's talk about gunplay and movement. I noted that I really enjoyed the gunplay in the beta, so I'm happy to say that here it's just been refined and tightened up a little bit for a better experience. Some improvements have also been made to the hit detection, so it feels a bit more consistent and therefore more enjoyable. Even the sniping here felt a little nicer by comparison to the beta, and I think some balancing changes were made to the default sniper rifle to make it feel a little bit less like a chore to use at range, so that was a nice surprise. I'll admit I haven't had a chance to unlock all of the guns in the game, and well, for that matter, I'm still working on unlocking a lot of attachments for the guns that I do have, but the guns I do have all feel pretty unique amongst one another. They all carry very separate playstyles. So that's something I do like to see as well. Gunplay is without a doubt the most important thing to get right in a first-person shooter, and I think they've got a pretty good foundation here in 2042. Movement-wise, things feel like they've been toned down a bit too by comparison to the beta, and I do think the experience is a little bit better for it. Sliding is still a thing, but I'm seeing a lot less players just sliding all over the shop like the floor is covered in Vaseline, so that's been a fun adjustment as well. Graphically, and I don't think there's any surprise here, the game holds up as one would expect out of a Battlefield game. You know, Frostbite really never fails to perform visually, and it sells the Battlefield chaos well here, even on the lowest settings, which is what I'm running the game at. Watching the tornadoes blow through the maps was pretty awe-inspiring, and when the chaos reaches 11, well, yeah, it looks gorgeous. Unfortunately, it seems like performance has been a bit of a letdown for a lot of players, you know, with frame rates on PC in particular seeming to fluctuate all over the place across a wide variety of system specs. On my AMD Ryzen 5900X and on a 1080 GPU from Nvidia with 64GB of 3200MHz RAM, I was able to average around 60 frames per second at 2K resolution, which I expected to hit, but I have been hearing mixed results from people running even stuff like 3090s and 3080s, which which are high-end graphics cards. So it's clear that some further optimizations might need to hit the game, but regardless, if you plan on playing this thing at a high refresh rate or higher graphics settings or a combo of the two, well, just get ready for your PC to turn into a space heater, because it's going to happen. But if I'm going to be entirely honest with you guys, the true highlight so far for me has been Battlefield Portal. The Portal experience and being able to return to remastered experiences from 1942, Bad Company 3, and Battlefield 3 has been nothing short of an absolute gem of an experience. Seeing these maps, these weapons, and these experiences brought back to a modern engine is nothing short of a massive nostalgia trip for me, and as somebody who never got to play 1942, it was pretty fun experiencing that side of Battlefield's history for the first time, but in a modernized engine. Unfortunately, the Bad Company preset was a bit of a letdown for me because the weapons just feel so damn inaccurate. Like, I do remember the spread being really amped in the Bad Company games, but man, it was dialed to 11 here, so much so to the point where it just felt a little annoying to use those weapons, so I think they need to be tuned a little bit further. But personally though, being able to play Battlefield 3 in a modern engine again, with less blue and no suppression, and man oh man, to return to that glorious M16A3, guys, I had a smile on my face the whole time. I'm sure we'll expect to see a ton of Noshar Canal's TDM servers soon in Portal, and I look forward to seeing what the community decides to do with the wider functionality of Portal as well. In the OCE region, I noticed that there was already a zombie rush mode sort of set up to a certain extent. I haven't really tried it yet and I don't know how good it is, but well, the madness of the community is already starting to show, and I hope DICE continues to improve on Portal and what it can do, but we'll touch on that again a bit later. Now, obviously, the elephant in the room is still the specialist system, and they continue to be the most polarizing aspect of the game for many players. Now, I'm still not convinced that this was the correct path to take for the future of Battlefield, and I'm going to need to see how the game plays in the long run as more specialists get added, and how the meta shifts balance-wise, so on and so forth. But I will say that on first impression, that the specialists are annoying me a whole lot less than I originally thought that they would. My biggest concerns here was without a doubt the team play aspect of Battlefield being sacrificed thanks to the quote-unquote total freedom approach that DICE have taken with specialists. But in my experience, there is still a solid amount of team play at work here. Players are still choosing support options naturally, so that's good to see despite the more sandbox approach. I've been revived by random players more so in the last couple of hours alone than I was for the entirety of the open beta, which honestly I think has more to do with the improvements that have been made to the revive mechanics in the final launch of the game, so thanks to DICE for that, by the way. But in general, I'm seeing more ammo bags, I'm seeing more health kits, and I'm also seeing more people even running repair tools as well. So without a doubt, there's definitely still some aspect of team play present in the Battlefield formula, even with specialists, and the impact of the specialist system on Battlefield's teamwork aspect hasn't been as strong as I thought it was going to be. Friendly versus foe identification has also been pretty solid as well, all things considered. That's mainly been thanks to some improvements to the HUD, so that's good news as well. As far as the specialist balance is concerned now, I'm going to be doing a full video on that next week where we talk about all the specialists that are in the game currently and where their strengths and weaknesses are, so once I have all those guys unlocked, we'll be doing that video, so get subscribed for that as well. Now yes, I've been singing the game's praises here, but trust me, there is some stuff that I have some serious concerns about. Some of which are easy fixes, some not so much, and some of which I think will depend on how DICE handles this game in the long run. Firstly, the in-game audio. As far as audio recordings and assets are concerned, I have no complaints, but right now it does seem like the audio space and the soundscape is a bit flat. Footsteps in particular are incredibly loud, and I can't really tell how far away a player is. More often than not, they sound like they're in the same building as me, only to be 50 meters outside in the neighboring field. So I think that needs to be sorted out ASAP. The in-game UI for me is also a bit of a mixed bag. The changes made to XP rewards, the kill feed, the critical game updates, all are welcome changes, and that has helped the experience overall. But in saying that, the 2042 HUD, for example, looks way out of place in the 1942 game modes, and there are some HUD assets that can be incredibly intrusive. Sundance's lock-on grenade HUD in particular takes up a big portion of the screen space, more than it should in my opinion. Also, and yep, I know everyone and their Dog on Reddit has brought this one up, but I'm going to do it too. Where the hell is a scoreboard? I don't think I've ever played a multiplayer shooter game that doesn't have a scoreboard. I mean, scoreboards are great for encouraging players to get better and give you a direct point of comparison to aim for, and it gives you a clear way to show yourself that you are in fact getting better, which is incredibly rewarding as you grow as a player. So I think a scoreboard needs to happen ASAP, and I really doubt that that'll be a hard feature to implement in the long run. So DICE, let's get a scoreboard in the game ASAP, please. It also has to be said that the all-out warfare mode can feel like a bit of a mixed bag at times. The map sizes here are astronomical to accommodate for the new player count limits, but even then, on some of the maps, things can be a bit quiet at times, and the pace can die right down if you happen to spawn at the wrong side of the map at the wrong time. It's normally pretty easy to get yourself back into the action again thanks to the vehicle call-in system, thank God for that by the way, and some maps do play a bit more consistently than others. Manifest is without a doubt a personal favourite of mine, but it is something worth mentioning. Breakthrough, in my opinion, actually plays a little better than Conquest as it forces teams to engage, and it actually gives off a much better sense of a large-scale conflict breaking out. All-out warfare isn't bad by any stretch of the imagination, just be prepared for some mixed pacing is all. However, on the other end of the spectrum, and I know this is going to make some people very unhappy, but Hazard Zone right now is one hot mess. I'm sorry guys, but the mode just feels incredibly tacked on right now and just doesn't provide a cohesive experience in the slightest. For one, this is a permadeath mode that requires your team to call you back in if you die, which is all well and good and all, except that the time to kill balancing in this mode is the same as the base game, and for a permadeath mode, there needs to be a lot more room for counterplay. Right now, the time to kill does not match the overall pacing of the game. Right now in Hazard Zone, a third party or any kind of ambush just sees your team get deleted straight away, and that strips you of all of your progress. And if you dumped a whole bunch of credits into your loadout at the start of this game only to be deleted straight away and not earn anything to counterbalance that expense, then you're straight out of luck for the next round. And the whole economy system just feels whack. The mode rewards you with these credits for completing objectives and killing enemy players, which then you must use to unlock better loadouts and versions of your weapons with attachments, so on and so forth. But what this now means is that there's a huge landslide of skilled players having access to the best gear constantly, leaving your lesser skilled players with no chance comparatively because they have absolutely no gear worth combating. And unfortunately, because the mode literally has you fighting for the privilege to unlock the gear you already owned in other modes for the next round, it just seems pointless. I don't know guys, the mode just feels a bit like a tick off the checklist to me, and it feels a bit half-baked right now, and I'm not even sure it can be saved at this point without a total reworking, which is a lot of dev time spent away from the live service aspect that this game now needs to match. It just doesn't seem to offer much in the way of unique gameplay. It takes the core gameplay loop from Battlefield and throws it into a mode that doesn't quite accommodate it that well. Maybe it's just me, but Hazard Zone is a side of the game that I won't be touching again unless it gets some serious revisions in the future. Beyond that though, there were some pretty annoying little quality of life issues that I would love to see get addressed in the long run. For example, not being able to join new squads mid-game, the menu being incredibly clunky when it comes to customization and equipping attachments on PC, and I know that there were also some people having connectivity issues getting the persistence error. I personally didn't cop it a whole lot, I think only maybe 3 or 4 times out of a 12-hour play session, but I do know many people who got it pretty consistently, so I hope for your guys' sake it's addressed soon. And please DICE, I would love to see an addition to the downed state that tells me how close allies are who can potentially revive me. That information will go a long way in deciding whether or not my character tells people to go on without them or whether or not I actually call for a medic. So with all that said guys, if I was to wrap up my thoughts on Battlefield 2042's early access into a final conclusion, if you will, the game is certainly hilariously good fun, especially if you get a squad of mates in with you. You guys can have a ton of fun here, and the replay value from a core gameplay perspective is definitely there. The core gameplay loop is fantastic in Portal. It feels pretty good in All Out Warfare. Hazard Zone is a bit of a hit or miss, but that'll come down to your personal preference. And what the game has certainly done here is planted a lot of seeds in different areas. It's created a lot of different gameplay experiences that the community can get into, and has definitely got itself started in that regard. However, I think because this game is doing its absolute best to accommodate as many different experiences as possible, the devs have potentially spread themselves a little too thin. And it goes to show with the quantity of weapons that are in the base game, the amount of customization options available on vehicles, for example, comparison to previous titles, there's just an inkling in the back of my mind that says that the game right now is as wide as an ocean, but as deep as a puddle in some aspects. And that's not to say the core gameplay is bad. In fact, it's the most important thing to get right at the launch of your game, and I feel as though the developers have done that part right. But what they've done here by trying to get so much done in so many different realms and game modes and stuff like that is that they have fallen behind on the depth of the game in some aspects. With only 2 portal maps available for each era, a handful of weapons for each portal era, and admittedly only a handful of weapons available in the base all-out warfare mode, you do feel as though the game could be a little bit more in-depth as far as customization and stuff like that is concerned in the long run. And what I'm hoping for now is that DICE continues to support this game in the long run with meaningful content updates to all game modes that helps to add that depth that may be missing at the launch here. Again, I haven't unlocked everything and I haven't had a chance to experience all aspects of the game yet, so maybe it's deeper than may first meet the eye. But this is all based on my first impressions of the game so far. Overall, Battlefield 2042 has been a very fun experience and I cannot wait to jump back in and give it a bit more game time. In fact, I'm probably going to go do that right now. So if you guys enjoyed today's video, be sure to backhand the like button. Let me know in the comment section down below what your thoughts are on Battlefield 2042 and how it's playing right now. If you haven't had a chance to play it, do you think you'll be picking it up? Be sure to let us know. If you're brand new to the channel, consider subscribing. I'm going to be doing a lot of Battlefield 2042 content on this channel in the long run, so get ready for some of that. And if you're a long-term channel subscriber and you want to support us further, consider a channel membership. It goes a long way to support the channel, guys. Once again, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Peace out, and I will see you guys all in the next one. Take care, guys. Have a good one.